Hello, welcome to A March for the Ages. I'm Brittani Cook from Jefferson Davis High School, and today I'm joined by Miss Louise Grant. Hi, Miss Grant.
Hello.
So, first, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about growing up.
Well, I grew up out in the country, out in rural. I'm the youngest of 5 children. And as a child, my mother kept me busy all the time doing little chores for her. My aunt told me at the age of 8, when she married my uncle, that my mother would always call on me and send me to do different things for her. So I guess that instilled into me to do what I can, when I can, and what I can for others. I love people. And I was always up to a lot of devilment. So I never will forget, in the 9th grade, I was in the choir. And we had to sing for Christmas. We had a lot of Christmas carols to sing. Well, I got put out of school for shooting firecrackers. So my mom and daddy didn't know that I had got put out of school, and I wasn't going to dare tell them because I had to sing the next day. My mom had made me a navy blue skirt and a pink blouse, and I wanted to wear my stuff to school. So I went on to school the next day, and I had to hide from the principal because the principal was my cousin. And he told me, just because you're my cousin, don't think I'm not going to put you out. Well, he put me out. I went on to school the next day, and I kept ducking and dodging him all day long because I knew my mom and daddy was coming. And I just stayed out his way so that I could sing. But I was out for the school holiday, Christmas holidays. So that next Monday that we had to go back to school, Dad had to take me back to school.
Okay. And speaking of school, tell me about going to school with segregation.
Oh, by that time I had moved to the city. I went to Carver, and we had devotion every morning. The teachers were nice to us. We were nice and respectful to them, and they punished us. If we do something wrong, you would get sent to the office, and the principal would give us punishments. We had to pick up paper, clean the bathroom, but I never did have to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, by the time I got that old, I had learned to not do stuff in school.
But tell me about your role in the civil rights movement.
Well, my role in civil rights movement started, I guess I can say, before the civil rights, because I used to have to catch the bus to go to work. I worked at a white beauty shop. Had to catch the bus to go to work. I went to a black beauty school, and I worked in a white shop. And I would go out at Del Rey to working, and every time I shampooed somebody's hair, they would give me a quarter tip. And I thought I was still young, I'm a young adult. Every time they give me a quarter to go to school for tip, I'd go buy a Coke. They said, here, buy your Coke. And I drank so many Cokes until I decided, I can't drink these many Cokes. So I learned how to keep my quarters for bus fare.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we would ride the bus, that was long before Rosa Parks got tired of standing up. So we would have to be riding the bus, and if the bus get full up there in the area that got filled up for whites only, when they were filled up those seats, the bus driver would get up and come back to the back and make us get up to give the white people, even if they were men, you had to get up to give them your seats. So by Rosa Parks being brave enough to take her stand, then that broke all that up.
Yes, ma'am. Speaking of Miss Rosa Parks, she and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are known as the heroes of the civil rights movement, but who was your personal hero?
Well, my personal heroes were Kid and Cairo Franklin. They had a Boys and Girls Club on Barnes Street, which was in West Montgomery, and it still is existing today. They worked out of their home, and Kid and Cairo did little things to raise money to help the little boys and girls. It was named the Boys Club, but the girls were there too. And Miss Cairo would make little cheerleader outfits at home. They made little trinkets to sit out in the yard with your house numbers on it. So finally, after the civil rights got started, then they wanted to be chartered like the other Boys and Girls Club. So Richard Grant was my husband. He worked in Greenville. So he had been working with the Boys Club off and on down through the years. So he came from Greenville and worked there because they needed somebody with a degree in order to be chartered. So he came, they built a new building. They got a grant from, I think it was First National Bank, to build this building. And the building was built, and it was dedicated in the summer of 1966. And they are still operating over there today.
That's great. Speaking of work today, you're part of the Clean City Commission. Tell me about your work.
Well, I became president of my neighborhood association, which is English Village, in 2001. And after that, I was asked to be on the Clean City as Clean City Commissioner. And I started working with them. I don't remember the year, but it was in the early 2000s. I worked as a chairperson for 2 years. And I had worked so well with them because they had a lot going on. They would have Flimps Festival. They would give away plants, and everything that they did, I was willing to help. So when my time was up, Miss Carmichael wanted to keep me on, so she put me on the advisory board, so I'm still with them.
Okay, so tell me about your experience when you joined the state. What was that like, working with the white members?
With the state? Well, when I started with the state, it was during the time, it was 1965, 66. I had been taking tests. I was taking tests with the Postal Services and with AT&T. And then I took one with the state. By me working in the white beauty shops, they would be in there talking about, they would say, hey, it's the day of your birthday, I see you out, you're off. So you all be off for everything every time something come up, you all are off. And I thought, that would be a good job, I get a job with the state. So I went and took a state test. But the Postal Service and the AT&T, I never heard from them again. In later years, I was told, and it hadn't been maybe 5 years ago, I was told during that time when blacks was taking tests with the Postal Service and the telephone company, they would just throw them in the trash. So I never could figure out why I never heard from them. But I took a state test and passed. Well, Frank Johnson had down orders to hire blacks to work in the labs, to do something besides, you know, like working in the washroom. When I got there, that's where most of the blacks was working, in the washroom. We had one man that was a mail carrier. But when I went there, it was 3 of us working, sent at the same time. They didn't know what to do with us. They didn't know where to put us for us to change clothes, because working in the lab, you can't wear your street clothes. So they put us first in a boiler room. So then they were told, y'all can't let them dress in that boiler room, it's dangerous in there. So then they put us downstairs in a little locker room. And then after a while, they discovered we wasn't so bad after all. So they just put us all in the same locker room. And I worked there from 1968 after Judge Johnson handed down those rules. I got hired in 1968, and I worked until 1998. I stayed there for 30 years.
And they treated you fairly? They treated you nicely?
Yeah, it ended up when we all joined together, and we all would go to lunch together. I mean, we just all mixed up.
But do you still feel that race will forever be an issue?
Oh, yes. It will forever be one. It has always been racism, and it always will be, and there's a big division now. But if we keep working together, networking, talking with each other, I think we can close that gap some.
Okay, by, you know, gaining understanding of each other.
Right.
So tell me about your work with the Clean City Commission. Are you still working with them today?
Yes, I'm still working with them.
And what are you guys
today.
doing right now? What are you guys working on?
Yesterday, Monday. Monday was when the Dream March on, when the kids came together to clean up over on Oak Street. We were there, and all the grown-ups had to do was assist the kids because they were going to do all the work. And we potted flowers. And as they would go into the neighborhood helping clean up, they would take the plants and give each one person a plant so they have pretty plants growing when the marches come through.
Okay, and it's going to be the Dream March on Educational Tour starting on the 23rd, March 23rd.
Right.
Are you participating?
Sure. Whatever needs to be done, I'll be there.
Yes, ma'am. That's good. What lessons do you believe today's generation should take from the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, I think people your age, be sure, make very sure, you watch, you see what's going on. In talking to me, you can find out what a struggle it was for us back then. Your struggle is not as bad as mine is. So if y'all can pick up the torch that we carried, then y'all will be able to go much further than we have gone.
Yes, ma'am. Tell me about some of the struggles.
Well, you know, it's such as riding the buses. You couldn't go and get a meal. You had fountains where you had color and white. And then I remember down in Crest, that's where those fountains were. And then you couldn't go to get a lunch anywhere where you wanted to go.
Yes, ma'am.
So after the civil rights struggle was over, then they started taking all those signs down. And speaking of the heroes, I remember Richard Boone and Roosevelt Barnett, they would put up picket fences whenever there was a department store downtown that wouldn't have blacks. They would put up a picket line, and they would picket those stores. I bet you they hired somebody then. Yeah, so that was one of the heroes. They were two of the heroes that you don't hear a lot about.
Yes, ma'am. And speaking of historical figures, they always have quotes that they live by. Do you have a quote, saying, or belief that you live by?
Well, the thing that I live by is do the best you can as you go through life. Treat everybody right. You do the best that you can. You be willing to take action for what you have done. A lot of people do stuff and don't want to be responsible. Yes, but as long as you be respectful and responsible, that would take you a long way.
Thank you. Well, I'll remember that, ma'am. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.